What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the PFF NFL show. Very exciting time here as we are about a week away from the 2025 NFL draft. And with that, we wanted to bring back Jack Gilmore onto the program. He is the director of football ops that we have over in Mobile at the Senior Bowl, one of our favorite events every single year. So much goes into the Senior Bowl and connecting these players with coaches and obviously getting the practice film out there and the game film and everything. It's just a little bit of help for them on their NFL draft journey. And like I said, with us being so close to the 2025 NFL draft, we wanted to have Jack back on to ask him a couple of questions about how the Senior Bowl affects what will happen on draft weekend. Jack, how you doing, my friend? Thank you so much for joining us again.
Doing well, Trevor. Appreciate you guys having me. Appreciate all you guys do for our game, and look forward to chopping it up with you.
Of course, man. Me too. So the first question that I have for you is simply, hey, Senior Bowl week, a lot of hype goes into the before, right? Okay, the watch list. Okay, they're inviting this guy. This guy accepted his invitation. You, of course, have the week of. We've got practices that we're watching from both of these teams. We've got some analysis of, how these guys are doing, moving up the big boards, all of that great stuff. But what about after? Right, when the Senior Bowl is over, sometimes people just go, all right, that's it. And I know that that's not the case. So with you guys, obviously you help these players get in connection with some of these teams. So what is life like for you guys afterwards? I'm sure, well, I hope there's a little bit of an unplugging time because I know how much work it takes to get an event like that off the ground and to run smoothly the way that you guys do. But afterwards, what's y'all's role with some of these prospects, some of these teams throughout the draft process after the Senior Bowl is over?
Yeah, I mean, we just continue to promote our guys. The main thing that the Senior Bowl provides these guys, it's a huge resume booster for them for their draft process. What they do while they're in Mobile, it sticks with them, all the way to April.
Mm-hmm.
It's a badge of honor that they wear throughout their draft process that they were part of the Senior Bowl. I think, it provides a lot of, benefits, participating in the Senior Bowl, but the main things it does is it checks a lot of boxes in terms of loving football, being competitive, and being reliable. And you can count on that, if you pick a player that participated in the Senior Bowl. Not only that, it's another exposure point. Decision makers are more comfortable, around people that they're exposed to more.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the Senior Bowl provides that as well. All the way up into April and through draft meetings, you'd always hear, references to the Senior Bowl. Um, and I think that's another huge part of it as well.
Yeah, I think that we focus on this time of the year a lot around those like top 30 visits, that some of these teams have, and I think that some people believe like, oh, well, top 30 visits, they're not going to draft a guy that has top 30 visits. Sometimes the top 30 visits are actually reserved for guys that, like you said, like they don't have these relationships with
Yep.
yet, and when you have those opportunities to meet with these players, see them up close, get to teach them some things throughout the week at the Senior Bowl. I know that definitely helps them out. And sometimes you don't even need to go to on a top 30 visit if you've already been to the
Yep.
Senior Bowl because they already know how you are. I'm curious.
Absolutely.
I'm curious how you guys enjoy draft week, right? I mean, like we enjoy it here at PFF, being on the desk, doing a live show ourselves. But you guys, again, you have so many different connections to all of these players, personal connections, obviously seeing them work on the field, helping their draft stock in whatever way that you guys can with your game. And so I know that draft weekend is a fun time for you guys because you're getting to see finally where these guys are going to get drafted, what teams are going to be their homes throughout their rookie contracts. But how do you guys enjoy draft weekend? Like, what are you doing? Are you kicking back, like eating chicken wings like the rest of us when we were just watching the draft, having a good time? Or like, how do you guys sort of celebrate what is draft weekend and watch draft weekend as a Senior Bowl staff?
Can't wait for draft weekend. I'm getting pumped. So we do have a party on Thursday night, one of the draft. We rented out Top Golf. Our Senior Bowl family will be there, our full-time staff, our support staff, our committee members. In Mobile, we're always looking for an excuse to have a party. So we'll have a party Thursday night. South Alabama wide receiver Jamal Pritchett will be there as well. And we look forward to honoring him and celebrating his success. So that's Thursday night, one of the draft. We'll do that. And then Friday and Saturday, day 2 and 3 of the draft, we'll kind of be out on our own. I plan on hunkering down at my house, just laptop, computer, cell phone, TV, just nerding out, just tracking all the guys that get picked, especially our guys. Obviously, it's a fun, exciting time. The Senior Bowl group chat, I'm sure will be hot that night.
One of us, truly. Jack and the rest
Oh
of the
yeah,
Senior Bowl staff, definitely one of us, just as draft addicts, loving to watch draft weekend
it's the
all weekend
best.
long. So you've been there for a couple of years. Obviously, you've been in your spot. You are part of what helps make that weekend roll very smoothly in a lot of ways with so many different moving parts. But throughout the process, I know there's a lot of great stories that are involved with the Senior Bowl. So I'm curious, is there one that maybe stands out to you from a player to a coach? You talk about integrating some of these NFL coaches, giving them an opportunity to take a step up and be have a little bit different of a coaching role at the Senior Bowl. It's sort of the same thing with these players, right? We see this all the time. Okay, well, this guy played tackle in college. Let's kick him inside. Let's give him a little bit of a different role. But I know that the journey to the Senior Bowl is great for a lot of these guys. So I'm curious, do you have a story from maybe a coach or a player that really stands out about either how they got to your event or maybe what they did in the practice week, something like that? Because I always just love hearing that part of what you guys have that weekend.
Yeah, probably my favorite story revolves around Memphis quarterback Seth Hennigan and kind of
Okay.
how we got down here. Seth was someone that we invited later in the process. Um, and when we invited people later in the process, it wasn't quite like it was at the beginning. So if you're invited later in the process, our former executive director would usually just call the player, extend the invite, happy moment, and then follow up with, hey, your director of football operations, Jack Gilmore, be in touch soon to coordinate your travel. Hang tight. Um, anyway, in the span of Jim having that conversation with Seth Hennigan, you know, I got with them shortly thereafter. I called Seth, congratulations, blah blah blah.
Mhm.
I need to get some travel information for you. Get your plane booked. And Seth, I already took care of that. Don't worry about it. Like, no, Seth, like we handle travel at the Senior Bowl. We got you. It's like, no, I already took care of it. All good. I was like, well, when you getting in? Do you need us to pick you up, take you to the hotel? Like, no, I already handled all that stuff as well. Like, I've got a ton of things going on. Like, I don't really have time to like really deep dive into, the why. And it's just like, okay, like this is a guy that just takes care of his business. Like, I'm gonna trust he gets down here and he's taken care of. Anyway, he did. He took care of his stuff. I see him and uh, I talked to him about it and I asked him why, like why he did all that. He's like, man, I just want to make sure I got down here in time. He actually got here a day before everyone got down here, booked himself a hotel room, because our hotel block started on like a Sunday, and I think he got in on like a Saturday. So a guy booked his own flight, booked his own hotel room, got here early, and could have cared less about getting reimbursed for any of it. To me, that speaks volumes about Seth Hennigan. I think he's a pro. I wish more people were like Seth. He was a fun guy to be around throughout Senior Bowl week.
And I know NFL teams probably certainly heard that story themselves and probably love
Yeah,
that about him. I will say this: we just did the quarterback episode here on the PFF NFL channel, and there was a lot of love in the chat from a lot of people who were saying, "Hey, Seth Hennigan is an underrated quarterback in this class, needs to be talked about a little bit more." So I know that they will love that story. Gives them even more faith to say, like, "See, I told you, somebody's got to draft this dude," and they're going to be very happy that they did. So I love hearing that story and so many others that
yeah,
you hear
yeah.
from the
I'll
Senior
share
Bowl.
another story from a coach's
Sure, let's
perspective.
go.
So Bubba Ventrone, he was our head coach of the American team. He's the current special teams coordinator with the Cleveland Browns. Great guy, did an awesome job Senior Bowl week. Um, but it was really cool to see him and his son Major. His son Major came down to Mobile throughout Senior Bowl week, and they just had such a good time together. That was a really memorable part of our Senior Bowl week was seeing, that father son, relationship shine throughout the week. Major was in the locker room after the game. He was up on top of the float during our Mardi Gras parade. It was really cool to see like this platform, be a fun experience for not only the players but coaches, family. That was really cool.
I love that. I love that too. It's again like getting a father son coaching combination is a special one, and I'm glad that they got that moment. I'm glad the Senior Bowl got to provide that moment for them. That is
Yeah,
very
and who's to
cool
say
as
Major's not
well.
playing in the game in 15 years? Like that
Yeah,
would be really cool.
a
Just a
hundred
full
percent.
circle moment. No pressure.
100%.
No
No,
pressure,
yeah,
Major.
no, yeah, not put no pressure on it. But hey, you handle your business. You go through high school as a recruit. You get to college, and maybe you'll get that Senior Bowl invite in a
Yeah,
hand here. So that would be the true full circle moment. That would be
absolutely.
that would be the
If
true.
I'm still here, there certainly won't be any bias towards inviting Major Ventrone to the Senior Bowl.
Of course not. No, no, no. Of course not. But
Right.
it would be sentimental is maybe the better word. The sentimental invite,
Yeah.
not just the bias invite. But hey, I know that you worked for the Raiders organization before you came on with the Senior Bowl staff. So I think a lot of people always love this question because they always love to know the process of things. I know you guys don't want to give away too much, but how does your work at the Senior Bowl and how you guys go about, I think, really the scouting process of things, compare to that of an NFL organization? When I know you guys are starting in the summer, and I know you got background information for guys even before that, but talk to me about how the Senior Bowl looks compared to that within an NFL organization, since you have experience in both ways.
Yeah, I'd say it's very similar. And a lot of credit to our, former executive director, Jim Nagy, for implementing our current, scouting process. He's an NFL guy. That's all he knew. Um, so that was why we do things the way we do them. Um, we've got a very talented group of scouts that have worked in NFL buildings before. They're really good evaluators. We meet on a consistent basis. Um, we've got all the resources in place to effectively do our jobs. Um, I'd say the biggest difference is probably our budget. We're not privy to like let our scouts get out on the road as much. We obviously like encourage them to do that. But I'd say NFL teams have more coverage due to their budget. We do look at the character piece, of the evaluation process, but probably not as deep as, the NFL process,
Hmm.
because we're going to be around a player for a week, whereas, NFL building, they're investing, draft capital money, um, in years. So they really would need to know how this guy's made, the makeup, what the makeup is. Where we're so just looking at it from a, is the character, is it polarizing? Is it strong or negative enough to really impact his draft stock?
Hmm.
Um, but to answer the question, it's very similar.
When you guys are when you're going through draft weekend, do you guys ever get like calls from NFL teams? Like for the last second, you know how like, we watch all like the behind the scenes, like every team in the NFL, they sort of put out their behind the scenes, draft stories, and it's the general managers, and they're on the phone with people and whatever. And sometimes they're calling other teams for trades. Sometimes they're calling agents. Sometimes they're calling the players. Do you guys ever get calls like on draft weekend? You guys, the Senior Bowl staff from NFL teams, are like, hey, we're thinking about drafting this guy. Like,
Right.
like any, do you have any sort of testimonial about these dudes? Can you talk about these dudes, how they were Senior Bowl week, whatever? And do you guys ever get calls like that from NFL teams actually on draft weekend?
I wish I had a cool story for you though, Trevor. I could tell you like, Terry Fontenot called me right before the Penix pick and asked me,
Right.
gave me that last little stamp. But
I'll believe
uh,
that. I'll believe that
those
just because you said it. You don't have to tell me that it was true, but now
that
that you
did
said
not
it out
happen.
loud, I'll
That
believe
did
it. No,
not
I'm kidding.
happen.
I'm kidding.
Um, Most of those conversations obviously take place like well before the draft.
Hmm.
They take place, a couple weeks probably after our event. They know that kind of let us unplug for a little bit, digest the information. But those conversations certainly take place,
Yeah.
and it's not just me. I mean, they'll reach out to our support staff, scouting assistants. They're really doing the work, and it's mostly positive stories that come out of our Senior Bowl week because I mean our process like it's very detailed and we assist them the best way we can. But yeah, they want to know, if this guy was maintenance throughout the week, did he handle his business? Did he have a positive impact on, the support staff? All those things like Femi Oladejo, for example, from UCLA.
Hmm.
That guy had such a good week down here in Mobile, just made such a positive impact. And I can almost guarantee you that those stories are going to be told, in draft meetings about the positive impact he had while he was down in Mobile.
Yeah, I think that that's so, those conversations maybe not happening draft weekend, but conversations that do happen with teams making sure they check in on guys and how they were during Senior Bowl week, not just on the field, but off the field as well. I know you guys are very innovative, right? As the game of football evolves and covering this game and setting up this event evolves, you guys evolve with it. So is there anything that you wanted to sort of give a shout out to about what you guys have done over the last couple of years that might be new, something that you might be trying to implement, very soon after this? I know that you guys have the tracking technology, which has been really cool to see, on the big screen. It's like, hey, from the first practice, this is the player who ran the fastest. Here's the miles per hour stuff. That's been a really cool addition. Just anything throughout the process of the event that you sort of would love to just shout out of something that you guys are doing that's pretty innovative?
Yeah, I think we did a good job from last year to this most recent game of taking a step back and kind of making it a more enjoyable experience for the player. I mean, I think number one, this is a job interview. It's a tough week for these guys, and it is that way for design because we do want, like I said to your very first question, like being part of the Senior Bowl, it is a badge of honor because it is hard and you stuck it out and you are competitive. You love football, but there's a happy medium there. Like we gotta keep these players engaged. We gotta keep them, lively. It's got to be fun.
Right.
So this year we looked at the schedule and we eliminated a night of interviews. We used to interview from Monday all the way to Thursday every single night, but this year we cut out interviews on Wednesday. I think the scouts really appreciated that as well, just giving them a night off. We added a Top Golf event on Friday night this year that was a huge success. They love the Top Golf. Um, if you're bored, go check out Jackson Dart Top Golf, Mobile, Alabama. The guy can smash a golf ball.
Not
Um,
surprising. He's a natural, man. He's a natural athlete. That's not surprising.
he put up some record at the Mobile Top Golf, like spin rate or something. I mean, he clobbers it. I mean, it's up there with like the Mike Trout video of him just hitting a ball at Top Golf. It's impressive. Um, so yeah, just making the week more enjoyable and finding that happy medium between business and fun is something that we're striving to this day to just kind of like get right.
Yeah. My last question for you, Jalen Milroe, quarterback at Alabama, recently accepted an invitation to be in Green Bay for the draft. And, when you're invited to attend the draft in person, that often hints that the league could see you as a first round pick. And I don't think that Jalen Milroe was always seen as a first round pick. I think he has been to some throughout the process. But you don't have to sit here and tell me, you'd take him top 10 or top 5 or first round or whatever, but you guys got to spend a lot of time around Jalen Milroe. So talk to me about what Milroe was like throughout the week while he was in Mobile. This is a quarterback who didn't have to go to Mobile to compete in the Senior Bowl, but chose to do so because he wanted to. So what was Jalen like throughout the week with you guys?
Yeah, there's a lot of added responsibilities for any Alabama player that comes down to Mobile, Alabama during Senior Bowl week,
Mm-hmm.
but especially the quarterback. There was a lot of fanfare around Jalen, and again, just a lot of added responsibilities off the field for Jalen, and he handled that really well. All the interactions he had with the media, fans. He was present. He was sincere. He was professional. He handled that part really well. And then when it was over, he was able to lock back in and handle his business. Um, and that's obviously going to follow Jalen wherever he goes. Being the quarterback, again, it's more responsibility than being the guard.
Mm-hmm.
So Jalen able to check that box in Mobile during the Senior Bowl, I think will really help Jalen throughout his draft process.
Yeah, I mean, we're excited to see where Jalen Milroe goes, where all of these participants in the Senior Bowl go. Jack, it's one of our favorite events that we get to go to every single year. We love the partnership that we have with you guys, and I appreciate you taking a little bit of time to talk to me a little bit more about the Senior Bowl, as we are just about a week away from the 2025 NFL Draft. So I appreciate it, Jack. Thank you.
Appreciate you having me, man. Enjoyed it.